Beats by Trill, straight Killerville, dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we back. Another episode of the Paul Pickett Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Pickett, a.k.a. Triple P, a.k.a. the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. I'm about to bring on a special guest. This guy has a pro MMA record of 14-6 and 2-0 in the BKFC. Let's bring on the one and only Marcus Bad Intentions Edwards. Marcus, what's good, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I want to start with your amateur career. You were undefeated as an amateur, right?
Yes, I went 11-0 as an amateur.
Okay. And then did you transition into UFC or some other MMA at first?
My first MMA fight was actually against Justin Gaethje. It was like on a 2-week notice. It was for Ring of Fire out in Colorado. I took the fight on short notice, and they're like, "Hey, man, you're pretty much running through all the amateurs in the division. You know, I'm fighting in every state." They're like, this is a big step up for you. This guy's the like next big thing, and this would tell you where you're at. Let's get in there and get after it. So, yeah, I took a fight against Justin on a 2-week notice, and yeah, we went all 3 rounds. It was definitely a great fight. That's for sure.
How did you get into MMA?
Ooh, man, shit. I've been doing this stuff since I was like 6 years old, wrestling, judo, grappling. I've always been the physical kid, I could never play a sport that wasn't physical, like basketball, foul out. So I've tried to play soccer, getting in fights. I've always just been the kid that was super physical and, I always played up, in age. I never played at my age group. So I was always, playing with guys that are, bigger than me. And, so like that kind of just, pushed me into the fighting world, with the MMA, doing MMA based off of my background of wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, and boxing growing up.
What was your experience like in the UFC?
So I actually I did the Ultimate Fighter house. And I did the tryouts. I got out to the last day, and there was just certain things that were going on that I didn't. That was said to me, you do different interviews. So you do your physical, sparring, do it, showing what you got, all this stuff. And then you make it to the next round, you do all this different stuff. And then they have like an interview with like the casting people. And, they talk about, what type of character and stuff you're going to be. And, it wasn't just like, so it wasn't, I just, at the time, it didn't feel like, the avenue I was on, didn't feel like the fighter house was like my thing. So unfortunately I never made it to the UFC. I've had a couple, I had a call up that I wasn't able to answer due to just like life situations. So I feel like, my career has always been like, I've been like on the cusp of the UFC, and, I've had the 2 opportunities, and when they've come, something always happens, man. And it just seems like that's just part of my life, like my story, kind of like with BKFC, I had not a really big opportunity, to fight, for a big fight, for them out here headlining the Colorado card. And, I had some stuff happen and I had to take 3 months off. So it's just like, it's just like the story of my life, man. You know what I mean?
So they wanted you to like play a character and have a gimmick in the UFC?
Pretty much, when I was talking to, the guys I was talking to, they're pretty much like, you look, they're like, you look like the wild guy, there's like certain perks and stuff, you know what I mean? So, and, just for me to move on, I didn't feel like it was like, it just wasn't for me at the moment. You know what I mean?
Can you share with us particularly your most memorable fight in your career and what you learned from that fight?
Ooh, yeah, it definitely was the Justin Gaethje fight. You know, it was like the first time I ever fought somebody, and the last time I ever fought somebody that was like it was like I was fighting myself. You know what I mean? So it was the only time I've ever been dropped in a fight. You know, and it was definitely the fight that told like showed me like okay like this is where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? He pushed me. I pushed him right back. You know, I dropped him, he dropped me. It was a back and forth fight. It was 3 rounds. You know, my first fight, fighting 5-minute rounds, and somebody just coming at me with everything they had, and me returning. You know, like I said, I had 11 amateur fights, and I mean, I didn't get hit one time in any of the amateur fights. I think all my
Wow.
amateur fights combined were like somewhere around like 4 minutes. So I was just like
Wow.
knocking guys out, and like, finishing fights really quick. So coming out and like getting dropped like the first 20 seconds of the round, and then like, recovering from that and end up dropping him and like pushing him to the point where he's exhausted, and like finding that guy inside of me, like, all right, like I can go the distance, I can push myself, and then I can read, my opponent and capitalize off of his conditioning, or of things that he's fell into, present throughout the rounds, that I can capitalize on his mistakes. So that was like a really memorable round. I mean, he's hit me the hardest I've ever been hit, and you know, I mean, he's kicked me the hardest. So I mean, I mean, for like 2 weeks afterwards, my leg was purple. So I can barely walk it. So that was like the most memorable fight for me. It was I felt like I was in an actual fight, and I have yet to feel that yet again since then.
Now you haven't had many, but I always got to ask this with the fighters, especially in BKFC. Like, how do you deal with losses and bounce back from defeats?
Oh man, I had one. I mean, with me, the defeats that I've lost, they've been decisions. You know what I mean? It was like, it could have went either way. So those ones are like the tough ones where it's like, well, I didn't really beat him and I didn't really win. You know what I mean? So, in my mind, it's like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't get finished. I didn't, this like time to get to the drawing boards. Where did I make the mistake? Where this, and just come back and like they say, it's like it's what you do after your loss. So like for me, it's like I'm sad in the moment. I take that night. I take the next day. If once I can get to look at the tape, I see where I made mistakes, where I let up or didn't push the throttle when I should have, and make the little tiny fine tuning. But like I try to tell everybody, like it's a sport. You know what I mean? And you would love to be the guy that goes undefeated. You know what I mean? But it's just like basketball. You're going to lose some. You got to come back to, the next week and get the job done. So you can't dwell on them. I don't dwell on anything really in my life. It's like once it happens, it's happened. Swallow that shit and get right back on it. You know what I mean? And the losses I've never had 2 losses in a row. I'll always come back stronger. I always come back better. And I'm always hungry. So yeah, I feel like I handle losses pretty good. Mentally. Everybody goes through their own little mental. The one I will say, there was one loss in my career that affected me the most, and it was when I fought Pat Healy. I fought Pat Healy on 4-day notice, and
Hmm.
I had just came off of like a 3-round war with Thiago Alves, and I had taken a week off, and I came in to practice, and I get a call like, hey, like we need somebody to fight this guy Friday night. And I gave them some like outrageous numbers and was like, you pay me this and you sign my buddy to a 3-fight contract, and shit, I'll fight him. And I'm not thinking they're gonna answer that, and like get a phone call like, hey, check your email. And they're like, all right. So I was like, shit, dude, like I haven't trained for a whole week. I'm coming off of a fight. I've been eating. I checked my weight that night, and I was like 28 pounds overweight. I'm
Oh
like,
man.
damn. I'm like, damn, this is about to be a hard one. I start getting scared. Like, man, I'm not gonna make weight. I've never not made weight. Like, I'm a professional. I'm not gonna show up like, And yeah, I cut 28 pounds in 3 days, man. And made
Wow.
weight at 155. And I think that was the hardest fight mentally for me, because not only did I cut all that weight, I couldn't rehydrate the right way. I was dehydrated going into the fight. We fought in Missouri, so we fought in misery, and it was humid as shit. The air conditioner broke. They had 4 title fights that night. Pat Healy and I was the last title fight. Every title fight went the distance, so we didn't fight until like 12:40, like at night, and it was just humid, and I was just like already exhausted, and I just went out and just like fought my hardest, and that was the only fight in my career where my body just shut down. And like that was the first time in my entire life where I was like, damn, like I can't defend myself right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm in full mount on top of him and I can't even use my arms right now. Like it was definitely it changed a lot inside of me. It took me like a good 2 months to come to terms with like, hey, like that's not who you are. You put your body through this. You got to like understand that, you went into this, dehydrated or whatever it was, because you start questioning yourself like, yo, like, do I got what it takes? Like I gassed out, your mind doesn't want to understand like, hey, I put myself through all this extra stuff before I got into this situation. So it took a little time for me to get over it, but I ended up bouncing back and getting a win right after that. So
How
yeah,
did you lose all that 28 pounds in 3 days?
man, we got with a nutritionist, and I pretty much like. So what I did was I got steamed salmon pretty much, and we had it cut into like two ounces, 2 ounces. I ate like 6 times a day. I just had the like a handful of spinach, and I
Man,
ate the protein every like 2 hours, and I did like 5, 6 fat burns, 2 practices, and I just did that all day, and I didn't eat after like 5 at night, and I just had like a half of a gallon of water. And then the next day I didn't drink anything. And then it was the weigh-in day. So it was like I was just pretty much fat burning and trying to keep the protein high. And yeah, and I got there. The day of the weigh-ins, I ended up cutting like 12 pounds. Yeah, and that was pretty rough. I passed out like twice. I was like,
yeah, that
you know,
seems like a
the
fight within itself. Just
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get to
Oh,
the weight down.
it was definitely like, man, like everybody that knows me, like, I used to fight at 155. So, I used to cut from like 200, 210, somewhere around that range. Like right now,
Uh-huh.
I'm like 225 right now. So like I
Okay.
used to cut from like this weight to 155. So everybody knows like, damn, that I'm like a master weight cutter. I don't know. I just water load and get it off. But yeah, that was one in my career where I'm like, yeah, I wish I never did that because that probably took like 10 years off my life.
Damn.
Yeah, that's
Well,
for sure.
you're undefeated in BKFC. When have you heard anything about when your next fight's gonna be?
Oh man, so like I said, man, I had opportunity headline the card in Colorado this month. And a lot of people don't know this, man. A lot of people like I'm okay to share it now, but for like the last like 7 to 8 years of my life, I've been dealing with like severe arthritis in my hip. So that's
I
I
know that.
stopped.
I know that. You had me clip it out of the last interview, and I made sure I
Yeah,
did that for you, man.
yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm ready to share it now. After my last fight. So like, if you go back and watch my last fight, you see I fall 4 times. And
Okay.
I come forward. I come
Yeah.
forward, and when I come forward, I don't. I come. So pause. But this last fight, I was coming forward and I just fell, and I fell, and I fell, and my leg was just like my right hip was just going out on me. And I end up like after that fight I go in and the doctor's like, he couldn't even schedule me for like 2 months. He was like, hey, we'll see what's going on, let's just get you in here and get some x-rays and get some stuff going. And he's like, if there is anything, my next soonest available appointment is like 2 months out. And I say, all right, that's cool. I'm planning to fight all this time. So after the fight, I can, I go in and he's like, yo, like I morally cannot let you leave here without getting you an appointment. Let me move some stuff around. He's like, this is the worst hip I've ever seen. And
Man.
he's like, I showed him my last fight and he's like, yo, there's absolutely no way you're fighting like that with this hip. He's like, there's zero, you have no mobility, you have no firing. You got like, this is, and he does like sports hips. He's like, this is the worst hip like I've seen. And He's like, we got to get this taken care of ASAP. He's like, you're not on a walker? Is this a joke? Like, what's going on? I'm like, nah, I just bear the pain. But yeah, man, so I ended up getting my hip replaced, and I just started training last week. It's been 3 months, and I feel great. Like, y'all about to see a whole new animal. Like, before I could barely walk, before I could barely move, like, and nobody knew, and now I'm able to. I haven't done lower body workouts for. I can't tell you the last time I lifted weights or deadlifted or anything with my legs, because of my hip. Everything was always modified around just riding a bike, keep the weight off, trying to get the strength with like bike, rowing, stuff like that. Never lifting. So now I'm back lifting and, doing all these exercises I haven't been able to do since, like 2016. So, yeah, so I'm feeling great. I just got done with the class with Jake and over at Genesis. And I mean, I'm like, I don't know, I'm biting at the bit. I'm hungry. I have a meeting sometime after this with my manager about options that they're about to give me. So I'm hoping to get back in there at the end of July. I'm trying to get in there. I feel great. I mean, I'm ready to like, I can show you better than I can tell you. That's where I'm at right now.
I know you watched the BKFC. What was it? 60 in LA
Yeah.
with
I did.
Juggernaut broke his arm when he fell.
Woo!
Is that like an important thing to just really watch how you fall in that ring?
Man, I think I'm not too familiar with his background,
Uh-huh.
with Lorenzo's background of like MMA. I've never really looked. I've only known him to be the BK guy. You know what I mean? But I mean, for me, falling has been a part of my life since I was 6, doing judo, wrestling. And the way he fell. I mean, I think the way he fell was based solely off of him being clipped and not being completely there. And his hand just kind of, his not being connected to his mind, and it
Mm-hmm.
just got caught behind him. But yeah, there's a certain way you fall, man. If you're able to, to brace yourself. I mean, at this point in my career, I, pray to God, that I never touch the canvas. But but if I do, I've fallen so many times. I've thrown a lot of people. I've been thrown. So it's just muscle memory for me to fall a certain way, or to roll through things, or to be able to put myself in a position to keep myself from being injured or hurt. But with Lorenzo, I think honestly is solely based how he fell and how his arm got stuck behind him was solely based off of him being rocked. Yeah.
I know that's gotta suck for him, man. I mean, he had such high hopes of getting both like weight classes and winning the belt,
Yeah.
and that happens. I mean, because I've actually dislocated a shoulder, broke a femur, and every toe in my foot when I got hit by a car. I ain't gonna lie, man.
Yeah.
That was a little tough moment. We did the Circle Kings interview. It's like you said you got your target set on Redneck Mandel. Is that still the
Yeah.
thing?
I mean, that is the ultimate goal is whoever has the belt.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to fight Mike Perry. I mean, that's a big thing for me. They're saying he's the face, he's the man. Yeah, I want the belt. That's what everyone's after, the belt. But like right now, I feel like he's the guy to beat. He's beating everybody. I'm kind of a guy that like I've kind of like haven't really surfaced much, but I've beat so many good people. I feel that I am the best in BKFC until they prove me otherwise. And I feel that with my fight style, and Perry's fight style, I believe when the time comes, just I obviously I have to do my work in the in BK, and they line them up, I knock them down. I put on shows, I come after people, I make fights. And that's one thing about BK is you want that guy that's going to come out, knock people out, be in people's face, put on a show, and you're going to enjoy watching that. And I believe that's what, Mike Perry and I will do stylistically. We would put on a beautiful show of just pure striking. It's not going to be this 2 minute, or a minute in the first, you know what I mean? Like, he's been beating these guys that are trying to like box him and play this game. When you're fighting a fucking dog, you got to come out there and be a dog. You know what I mean? And that's what I bring to the table is I can be whatever I want when I want to be it. And I believe that he's my ultimate goal at the moment, since he's undefeated and he's pretty much the top guy in my weight class. But Mondale is definitely in my targets. He has the title. I want that title, and I want the title of the guy that beat Mike. And I think that's anybody, anybody that wants to be the best. They just want to fight whoever's the best, in their lane, in their row. As far as anybody else in any other weight classes, I don't really care about none of that. I'm keeping my eyes focused in my division, and whoever they put in front of me, line them up. Like, I'm ready, man. I'm ready. So, line them up, let me knock these fools down, and give me what I believe that, I'm way past due, and, I've had a lot of situations in my life where I've made bad decisions and put myself in bad spots where, I should be. I see there's guys that I've trained with that I've been 100% better than, that are, fighting at the top spots. And, unfortunately, I was just the guy that, I never put myself first. I always wanted to put somebody else first, and put myself in bad positions. And, I own every decision I make, but, I feel it's my time, and it's better late than never. And I believe BK is where I do it. I have beautiful hands, I have power, I have speed. I come from different angles. I'm quick, I'm elusive. And the one thing that everyone has fought me is going to know is, like, that motherfucker came at me. That was a fight. Like, I may not want to do that again, like, so yeah, that's the one thing I know I bring to the table. And yeah, going into the BK it's my sport. I feel like, I just need the platform. That's the platform. And now I just need these fights. I'm healthy and I'm ready to go.
Well, look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm a big Redneck Mandel fan. I'm not too big of a fan of Mike Perry, but I gotta ask you: do you think BKFC? Because I know fighting has this politics where, like you said, he's the face of the BKFC. He is, and he hasn't been beaten yet.
Yeah,
but I feel like the fights are like kind of catered to keep him undefeated. Could I be wrong about that? Or
man, I think you're wrong. I think the thing is they're not. I don't think they're catered to keep him undefeated. I think that these fights are money fights. These are
okay,
let's
money
go get
fights.
let's get another big name and see what happens.
Big name,
and
if
that guy beats him, then he's the next guy. Let's get another big name from another division, or let's bring somebody in and now fight this guy. Like everybody knows, this promotion, BK is still fresh. They're still one of the newest.
You're right. Yeah.
And, they need to bring more eyes. And just like boxing, they do these like, these Conor McGregor, versus Mayweather fights, you know what I mean? It brings all these people from different walks of, mixed martial arts together. And, I believe that's what they're doing with, in that sense of, bringing guys that have been in the UFC or, K1 or, whatever it may be, to kind of bring more eyes to the division, which is beautiful for everybody. More eyes is more money. And, that lines the fighters' pockets and makes it, to the point where guys can actually, do what they have to do to put on good shows because they can focus on fights. But as far as catering to him winning, he's just winning. He's fighting.
Winning.
He's fighting tough guys. They're just BK's a brutal sport. Getting hit in your mouth with fists and you're not used to it is, if you didn't start off on the street and you're one of those dudes that came into a gym and was like, I'm a great wrestler, I've been in like a bar fight or so, then yeah, like you're not used to that world. Like, I don't know Mike Perry's background, but my background, man. And I mean, anybody from California where I'm from can contest to this, man. I mean, I was feared, on the streets of fighting. Like I've been in over 400 street fights easy. And that's no cap. And most of the fights were fights that just happened and somebody's getting jumped, and I'm just like, yeah, all right, well, I'll help him. You know what I mean? Or my boys calling me up like, yo, we about to meet behind blah blah blah, let's go get it in. And it's just, 20 versus 20 type deal. But in those moments, it's like, yo, like, you could die, so you fight differently. It brings out a different type of animal in you, especially when everybody knows you're the guy that knocks people out and they're gunning for you. You know what I mean? So it brings a different person out of you, different animal. You see life differently, and once you do fight, and especially a sport like this, it allows you to be the dog that you are, because there's no knives, there's no guns, it's just another man in front of me that bleeds, breathes, and eats and drinks just like I do. So let's see who can take it, and that's what happens. And I think that's why he's winning, is because he can take that damage, because he's been there and he understands. And it's just like anything, muscle memory. You just fight.
Well, BKFC is definitely not having no problem selling out any events. I know that much. And now they got Conor McGregor as part owner. What does that do for the future of BKFC? Even more brighter, would you say?
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think that's awesome. I think it's an awesome thing for the sport. Bringing, Connor coming in, buying half or a quarter or whatever he has. He's a new business guy. You know what I mean? He's trying to grow his brand. He's trying to this, he's trying that. So I think having somebody that's so hungry, someone that's been there, that's still doing it, that's one of the best to do it, that sells his fights. Bringing somebody in like that's hungry in the business aspect of fighting, and wants to help grow and wants to put their name and stamp and a legacy on something. I think that not only helps, the bare knuckle scene across the world for every bare knuckle organization. I think it helps all the fighters, especially in BK. The eyes that he's going to bring from just the people that follow him, that have his back, bringing in more sponsors, bringing in, just everything that comes with that Conor, McGregor, platform. So I think it's a great thing for BK, and I think it's a even better thing for the fighters.
I got one more question before we let you go and give your shout outs. What kind of advice would you give anybody trying to get into this fight game, whether it's MMA or BKFC?
Man, it's funny. I've been doing a lot of coaching since I've been injured. And man, do it. If you're getting into something, it doesn't matter what it is. Do it because you have the love and the passion for it. Not just because you see other people do it or it's cool or I fight. Like, make sure you're in love with it. And like there's nothing. You wake up and it's the first thing on your mind. You go to sleep, it's the last thing on your mind. When you're in tough moments, you're learning in those moments, and in the craft. There's some times where you're going to be exhausted, you're going to be tired, and like, yo, I don't want to show up. Show the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things like that it takes, especially to be a fighter. When you get punched in your face, like, don't be a bitch. There's the one thing I'm gonna say. Like, I will leave you with this. Like, I hate going to fucking gyms. Sorry, excuse my language. I hate going to gyms or practice and dudes punching people in the mouth and then telling them they're sorry. Or dudes being like, why you hitting me hard? Like, shut the fuck up and hit me back harder, bro. Like, let's get after it. Like, yeah, take care of your fucking teammates. But at the same time, like, don't be a bitch. Like, we're grown ass man. And if you want to be a fighter, be a fucking fighter. Shake hands afterwards and grow. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like, I came in at a point where it was like, like we have like regular MMA gloves on and like shin guards on, and that was it. And we're just banging, it was like gladiator school when I first started fighting. Now it's like, everybody's geared up, knee pads, elbow pads, and like, and it's like, oh, like, yeah, take care of your toys. But at the same time, like, you gotta learn how to be tough at practice, because you're not just gonna get rocked in the fight and imagine and expect to just like be able to work through it if you've never pushed yourself and been there in that position before. So I encourage people to like push themselves and break down walls. And there's only way to break down walls is to get the fuck after it. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you want to be a fighter, just make sure you're not a bitch.
You heard it from Marcus Bad Intention Edwards. if you want to get in this fight game, his best advice is don't be a bitch.
Yeah, facts. It's
Before we
funny
go,
though.
any shout outs you want to do?
Oh man, like I haven't, I was just talking. I don't have really any shout outs, man. Like I've just been sticking to myself. I don't have really any sponsors or anything right now. I've just been kind of laying low. Obviously like my gym, Genesis. But yeah, man, nah, not really. I don't have really any shout outs, man. I'm in this like this phase of just hibernation, you know what I mean? And yeah, so when I come out of that, I'll show my love to everybody that it's due to. But in the moment, just wait, watch, and see.
Well, I appreciate you coming on for the interview. And
Yeah.
anytime you want to come back on, please do. And I'm gonna definitely stay in touch with you.
Yes, sir.
Got to find out when your next fight's gonna be and whatnot, and gonna stay following and promoting, whatever you do, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, definitely. Like when we did the Circle of Kings, like all you guys are super cool. And I know you edited that stuff out for me, so I appreciate that very much,
Yeah,
man. 'Cause
yeah.
I was a little nervous at the time, didn't know, any aspects of it that I can get in trouble. I don't know. So yeah, I really do appreciate that and always showing me love, man.
Nah, I definitely wanted to respect your wishes on that, and because I know you didn't really mean to disclose that
Yeah, it
information
just
on the
came out.
show. Yeah, and then he was like, "Hold up,"
Uh,
after the show, he was like, "Yo, can you edit it out?" And what's crazy is I'm not like the master editor, but I felt like I did a pretty good job on
you
it,
did.
cutting it out, and that way they didn't know. And we ain't grimy over here like somebody like, "Yo, Marcus got hip problems, man." That's
Yeah,
the inside.
yeah.
Nah, man, I don't
Yeah,
take
yeah.
sides
Hey,
or nothing.
make sure you get a couple hits to
Yeah,
your
yeah.
zip.
Make
You're
sure you
gonna
hit
go down.
man, Nah, we ain't doing none of that over here and whatnot. But once again, thank you for coming on. Anytime you want to come on, man, please do, man.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I'll definitely shoot you a message when I find out when I'm gonna be fighting again, so you'll know what's going on.
That's what's up, man. Thanks again, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I'll see you.
All right, peace. Well, that was another one. Marcus Bad Intention Edwards, 16-4 in MMA fights for pros and 2-0 BKFC. And you heard him. It should be coming back to BKFC soon. Soon we'll find out when his next fight's gonna be. Can't wait. Want to see him continue that streak, go to the 3-0, and keep doing his thing. Once again, this is another episode of the Paul Pickett Podcast. Wednesday we got Marcus Suarez, Merck, and Thursday we should have Connor McKinnon, who's fighting Zach Kalmus at BKFC 61 in the undercard fight for the heavyweights. Stay tuned. Once again, another episode of Paul Pickett Podcast, and I'm out. Peace.